Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Vov Amud Aleph, 8 lines from the top. The Gemara has been discussing at length various requirements in regards to Kiddush. Now the Gemara cites the Torah source, the requirement where we know indeed there's an obligation to make Kiddush both Friday night as well as Shabbos day. Says the Gemara, bringing the following Brisa Tanu Rabbanon. Zachar Yom HaShabbos lekadishoi. Remember the Shabbos, the day of Shabbos, and sanctify it. Zochreu al hayayin. The Brisa learns out from this pasuk. You shall then remember the Shabbos through wine. Most of the Mefarshim, most of the Rishonim say that the Torah obligation is to mekadesh the Shabbos, and to do so on the kois shel yayin is midrabanon. Ein li ela bayoim balayla minayin. He says that you shall sanctify the day during the day. So ask the Gemara, that's well and good in regards to the day. Where do I know at night? Talmud learner zocher yom haShabbos lekadishoy. Balayla minayin. The Gemara asks on this brisa, which is not really clear to us. It first brings the pasuk zocher yom haShabbos lekadishoy. Then it states that I know for the day. Where do I know at night? Thereby it brings the pasuk again. Zochas Yom HaShabbos lekadishoy. Ask the Gemara, balayla minayin. Where do we know at night? Adirabo. On the contrary, ikar kiddusha balaylahu kadish. The main essential kiddush is at night when we sanctify the day on the onset of the night of the Friday night, which begins the Shabbos. We inaugurate the Shabbos by sanctifying it with kiddush. So the proper and most understood time to make the Kiddush really is at night, and therefore that's more understood. What we need to mechadish is to make Kiddush during the day. Vesu, ask the Gemara further, balayla minayin, where do I know Kiddush at night? Tamu lomer zochas yoim. You bring the pasuk, remember the day. Tana mehadar alayla v'konosiv lekro de yamama. The Tana is seeking out a source for the night, and then it brings a pasuk that says Zachar Yom HaShabbos as Yoim HaShabbos. So therefore, the Gemara is asking two questions over here. Aleph, why are we then trying to seek out a source for the night? Hare, the night, that is the preferable time to then begin inaugurating the day with Kiddush. And secondly, if you're going to find a source for the Kiddush at night, why then bring the pasuk Zochas Yoim HaShabbos? Answers the Gemara, Hachi Ka'amar. This is what it's saying. Zochas Yoim HaShabbos lekadishoy. Remember the day of Shabbos and sanctify it. Zochreu al hayayin b'knisosoy. Remember it on yayin, on a cup of wine, and as it enters the day. I only ela balayla, therefore I only know at night. On the entrance, in the inauguration of the day of Shabbos. Bayoy minayin, from where do we know that indeed there's also an obligation, of course rabbinic, to then say Kiddush during the day? Talmud lomer zachar es yoim haShabbos. Therefore the Torah, we have an asmachta to teach us that there's also a requirement to say Kiddush during the day. Ask the Gemara, if we're inaugurating the day of Shabbos Friday night with Kiddush, we're sanctifying the day that way, and therefore we make Kiddush, so then what is the Kiddush that we're making during the day? Bayoim mai mevarich, what are we required to make a bracha on during the day? Omer Rav Yehuda borei pri hagofen. We merely have to say the bracha of hagofen, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam borei pri hagofen, to then bring in the Seudah during the day. The very fact that we begin the Seudah with a Kiddush of borei pri hagofen, that itself distinguishes it from other Seudos during the week, making the day Seudah on Shabbos special. The Gemara says, Rav Ashi ikloi lemechuzah, tells us the following ma'aser. Rav Ashi, he went to visit the city of Mechuzah. It was during Shabbos day. Amru lei, they said to him, Likadesh lon mar kiddusha rabba. May Mar, the master of Ashi, sanctify for us, make kiddusha rabba. Havulei, They gave to him a kois. Savar, he didn't know what they wanted him to do. He never heard the term of Kiddusha Rabbah. And he knows that he learned before that the sanctification of the day is done Friday night. And during the day, you only make Bari Pri Hagafen. And what were they telling him, therefore, to say Kiddusha Rabbah? So he thought to himself, my nihu Kiddusha Rabbah, what is meant when they asked him to make Kiddusha Rabbah, the great Kiddush? Omar, he thought to himself, Michti, let us see now. Kol ha-brachos kulon Bari Pri Hagafen amei b'reisha. All of the brachos that you make on a kois, you begin by saying Bari Pri Hagafen. So therefore, he thought to himself, Omar, Bari Pri Hagafen, and then va'agid bey. He said, therefore, Bari Pri Hagafen. He said, Baruch Ato Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Bari Pri Hagafen, and he elongated the words Bari Pri Hagafen to see if anybody would begin then to try to drink, or they would wait for him to continue. He then saw an elderly man that started bending over to begin to drink. He then called upon himself the pasuk that says in Koheles, the wise one sees with his eyes. In other words, he saw that he wasn't sure what it meant, Kiddusha Rabbah. So therefore, he wanted then take the strategy of making Bari Pri Hagafen elongated to determine if he stops there, like all the other Bari Pri Hagafens of a Kiddush that's made during the day, or it requires Kiddusha Rabbah something more. Now the word Kiddusha Rabbah really is a euphemism. It's really only to say, in contrast to really the true essential Kiddush, which is made Friday night, the Rabban also required one to then start his Suda during the day with Borei Pri Hagafen. But really it's only secondary and not the same chashivus, of course, as the Friday night Kiddush. So therefore that's referred to as Kiddusha Rabbah. The question that's also asked is, how could it be that an elderly person that was sitting there can drink before the Mekadesh? To which is explained that indeed, either he didn't actually drink, or if he did drink, if he has a kois sholem in front of him, then he may drink even before the Mekadesh. The Gemara goes on to say, Amrei b'nei Rabbi Chia. The b'nei Rabbi Chia, they said, Mishelo hivdo b'motzoi Shabbos, mavdil v'holech b'kol ha-Shabbos kuloi. One who did not make Havdalah on Motzei Shabbos, he can still continue to make Havdalah during the rest of the week. Ask the Gemara, ve'ad kama, how much can he still make Havdalah? How much into the week can he do so? Omer Rav Zera ad revi'i b'Shabbos. Rav Zera said until the Wednesday of Shabbos, he can still make Kiddush. And therefore, when it comes to Havdalah, if a person still did not make Havdalah Motzoi Shabbos, technically he can still make Havdalah until Wednesday, namely Tuesday night. The idea that the Mefarshim explains, Shabbos is compared to a menorah. Just as a menorah has 3 arms on each side, with in the middle, so too Shabbos is the middle, whereby the 3 days preceding Shabbos and the 3 days after Shabbos are affected by the Shabbos. They have kesher, they have shaychus with the Shabbos itself. So therefore, after Shabbos, there's still a hashpah of the Shabbos into the week of 3 days, and therefore one can still say Havdalah till Tuesday night. The Gemara goes on to say, Kiho de Yosiv Rabbi Zero, Kamei de Rav Asi, V'amrei le Rav Asi, Kamei de Rav Yochanan. Rav Zera was sitting before Rav Asi. Some say it was Rav Asi himself who was sitting before Rav Yochanan. V'Yosiv v'Kamar, and he was sitting and he was saying the following: Le'inyan gitin, in regards to different stipulations of giving a get. Chade b'shabto trei v'tloso boso shabto. If he says that he's going to give something, let's say after Shabbos, then he's still able to do so Sunday, Monday, up until Tuesday night. Arbo v'chamsho umayle yoyme kamishabto. If he says he's going to give something before Shabbos, then he has Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Omer Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi aval loy ala ur. He says when it comes to making Havdalah after Motzei Shabbos, even until Tuesday night, one can do so. However, he cannot make Havdalah with the bracha Borei Morei Ha'esh. That bracha on the Eish is specifically designated for Motzei Shabbos. As the Gemara tells us somewhere else, that Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos, is the time that the Eish was created. And therefore, that's the time that's designated for the bracha, Borei Me'orei Ha'esh.